Hi everyone, it's me, and today let's learn about the benefits of milk together. Let's go!
Matt, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Just squeezing these cashews to get the milk out of them.
That's not how it works.
Can't you just buy this stuff from the grocery
Yeah.
store?
What, do I look like I'm made out of money? Why would I pay $4.59 for a carton of organic cashew milk from the store when I could just make my own with $4.29 worth of cashews?
There has got to be a more convenient way to save money.
Oh,
Yeah, there's got to be a more convenient way to do it.
really? Name one.
Well, I heard that by calling Geico, in 15 minutes you could save hundreds of dollars on your car and home insurance.
Geico, sponsor for today's episode. You're telling me
Thank
that in
you.
15 minutes I
Thank
could
you
be
so much.
saving 15% on my car or home insurance? That is awesome. Guess I don't need this anymore. Get me a phone! And a towel.
Food theory.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory.
Hello Internet, welcome to Food Theory. Hi, let's get started.
Show that won't stop milking the topic of milk. At this point, we've talked a lot about milk, about how
A
it
lot.
lobbied to be part of the food pyramid, how a surplus of the stuff led to massive underground warehouses full of cheese, and how, in general, humans are biologically programmed to become lactose intolerant as they get older. And it's that
Yeah.
last one that really brings up an interesting point that I want to explore today. Milk alternatives. Recently, the demand for traditional cow's milk has been on the decline. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, since 1975, milk consumption has plummeted by a whopping 42%. Since
Yes, especially in this day and age, in the year 2022, when there's much more alternative. Like for example, there's llama milk, sheep milk, donkey milk, goat milk, horse milk, buffalo moose. You get the point, right? Camel milk. The list goes on and on and on and on. So yeah.
Since 2003, the number of active dairy farms in the U.S. has dropped by nearly half. Younger generations just don't want the stuff. According to the data, Americans born in the 90s drink milk less often than those that were born in the 70s, who in turn drink it less often than those who were born in the 50s. So yep, this is yet another industry that you can blame the millennials for killing, but in truth, they're really just continuing a trend that started with Gen X. But while dairy milk has been on the decline, non-dairy milk alternatives have been there to pick up the slack. Another report found that between 2013 and 2017, purchases of plant-based milks like almond milk and soy milk increased by 36%. And that's just scratching the surface. There's also oat milk, coconut milk, cashew milk, rice, pea milk. That is PEA, in case you thought I was saying something else. Feels like
Yeah, YouTube. Please don't. No trouble, no trouble.
you could practically milk anything these days.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
But it also brings up a question. With so many alternative options available, clearly one has to be the optimal choice, right? Presumably not all milks are created equally. So I went out to discover which non-dairy milk option was the best non-dairy milk option. To
Bow to me, peasants. Don't do that, come on.
do that, we assembled a list of the 7 most popular dairy alternatives: soy, almond, oat, coconut, cashew, rice, and pea. To pit them head to head to head to head in order to decide once and for all which is the optimal answer the next time the barista at Starbucks rattles off the options that are available. Or, you know, the next time I'm just walking through the dairy section of the grocery store. Except for one thing, it's not that simple of an answer. It is rarely that simple of an answer. This one question is actually a variety of different questions because context matters here. Milk is used in a lot of things in the food world. You put it in
Yeah.
your cereal. It gets frothed into your coffee. It helps you to bake. It's used to make stuff like ice cream. The list literally goes on and on. So if
It goes on and on and on and on. Strange. Sorry.
we're gonna crown the best milk alternative, we're gonna have to look at a broad spectrum of its uses. To do this, we created a list of 5 major tests to put our milks through: nutrition, taste, frothing, baking, and of course, price, since some of these can get awfully costly. From there,
But having said that, please do recognize that results may differ if you are from different locations of the entire planet. So yeah, please take this result with a grain of salt. Thank you so much.
We're gonna score the results to get both the individual category winners as well as our overall champion. Because in a world full of constant choices, isn't it nice to know for a fact that you're making the best choice? That, my friends, is the Theorist way. Now, obviously, the way you get milk from a cow and the way you get milk from an almond or pea are drastically different. In fact, their statuses as milk is kind of in dispute. You see, a milk, by definition, is an opaque white fluid that's rich in fat and protein made by female mammals for feeding their babies.
An opaque white fluid rich in fat and protein made by female mammals for feeding their babies. Huh. Do dolphin and whale, do they have milk? Huh, interesting. Because if I'm not wrong, dolphin and whale, they're mammals, right?
And immediately based on that definition, it becomes apparent how this might be a problem. Female plants certainly aren't mammals, and they're not secreting white fluid for their babies. What
Oh my god, Pokemon references!
we call non-dairy milk alternatives are really just extracts made by soaking and blending plants to produce opaque white slurries, like we associate with traditional cow or goat milk. White drink equals white drink, therefore milk. As a result, the Food and Drug Administration has been concerned that non-dairy products having names like soy milk is misleading to consumers. In the European Union, in fact, you can't actually label a non-dairy product as something like oat milk. Instead, sellers have been using labels like not milk, oat drink. And then in 2018 in the US, there was even a class action lawsuit claiming that quote-unquote almond milks shouldn't be using the term because they are, to quote the filing, nutritionally inferior. The shots were fired, but the case eventually got thrown out. But technically, they were right about that last point. Nutrition is one of those areas where, ounce for ounce, plant milks have difficulty matching the raw efficiency of dairy milk. Traditional cow's milk is just one of the cheapest protein sources available, with 1 cup of milk offering 8 grams of protein. If you're
Yes, that's right. Especially when you must recognize that different people living in different parts of the world have different access to different milks. So if you're living in those rural areas, outskirts areas, you'll not be able to access to the grocery store as often as you would like to. So your options are limited, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
paying $4 for a gallon of milk, that means that you're getting a whopping 32 grams of protein per dollar. That is a huge amount of nutrition per buck. Plants, meanwhile, usually not a great source of protein, and as you'd expect, most of the plant milks have less than a single gram of the stuff. Pea milk looks the most impressive, with a whopping 8 grams of protein per glass listed on the nutrition label. That would be enough to put it on par with dairy milk, at least until you realize that pea protein actually ranks incredibly low in bioavailability.
Yep, we're talking about bioavailability. Sorry.
I've talked about that a lot in past videos, but the TLDR here is that while pea milk contains a lot of protein, very little of it is actual stuff that your body can use. Of the 7 contenders that we looked at, soy milk stands above the rest. Not only does it offer 6 grams of protein per glass, but that protein is also much more bioavailable than anything else. The runner-up was cashew milk, with 5 grams of protein, roughly 2/3 as bioavailable as what you find in soy. Meanwhile, the clear losers of this category were anything grain-based, like the oat and rice milks. But protein is only one nutritional reason that people drink milk. The next one is fat. Now, I know a lot of people actively try to reduce the amount of milk fat in their diet, preferring to go with skim milks. Trust me, I am more than familiar with skim. But the thing is, not all fats are created equally. The fat that you find in drinks like soy milk and cashew milk is monounsaturated fat. When you hear people talk about the good kinds of fat, this is the stuff they're talking about. This is what's going to reduce the bad types of cholesterol in your system and reduce the risk of heart disease. So winning the highest amount of healthy fat category is cashew milk. Soy, oat, and pea milk all roughly tie for second place.
So what is the lowest scoring in that particular field?
Said, there's one plant-based milk that is a clear and definite loser in this category: coconut milk. Coconut milk absolutely packed with saturated fats. And while you do want some of that in your diet, too much of it can raise your cholesterol, building up plaque on the insides of your arteries. This is largely the stuff that you want to avoid if you can help it, and considering that there are plenty of other milk alternatives you can choose that won't add it into your diet, coconut milk definitely at the bottom of our list.
But having said that, MadPat, you might be wrong in some cases, because you must remember that your audiences spans around the globe, and sometimes your audiences live in rural areas, outskirts areas. They will not have access to those grocery stores. They will not have access to those places to have they do not have those kind of options available. So unfortunately or fortunately, coconut milk is the options on a regular basis.
Last in our nutrition category is calories. Again, this is a place where some people might be trying to reduce their caloric intake, but we're saying higher calories is better since this is purely about getting the most nutritional bang for your dollar. More calories equals more energy. That said, if you're trying to cut calories, then you could just flip the results of this part. Coming out on top is the clear winner is cashew milk. Over 150 calories per cup, followed by oat, rice, and soy milk, all roughly tied for second place. Down at the bottom of this ranking, almond milk, with less than 1/3 the calories of cashew. So at the end of our nutrition round, the clear winner seems to be cashew milk. It had the highest amount of calories and healthy fat and was the second best when it came to protein. Not far behind was soy milk, the far and away leader in protein while putting up decent performances with both healthy fat and energy. Also, you might be wondering why we didn't consider calcium or vitamins. These are also reasons why people drink a lot of milk. The thing is, most dairy milks have been specially fortified to have high amounts of those vitamins, and most non-dairy milk manufacturers have also chosen to fortify their drinks to follow suit. Since that's a big variable that's actually more dependent on the brand that you're buying rather than the base nutrition of the milk that you're consuming, we didn't actually include those here. In general,
Yeah, MedPat makes a very good point. It's about the branding, so
if you care about the vitamin amounts, make sure you check the nutrition label. Next up, category 2, taste. Now, taste is obviously subjective, so I wanted to get as big of a data set as I could. In order to do it, I volunteered a bunch of members of Team Theorist for the test. In
volunteer.
fact, one person in particular was very eager for their chance to appear on camera. It's the face
Oh, hi.
reveal for a very familiar voice over on GT Live.
Oh my gosh, face reveal.
Hello everyone. My name is Ash.
Hi Ash.
I have a
Hi.
face. That's
Yes,
crazy.
please.
Not just a figment of my imagination anymore. Based on our survey results, one immediate trend emerged. Cat ears. A lot of people wore cat ears. There was also a cat. Team Theorist,
Meow. Meow. 八只. Oh, what am I doing? Seriously.
keeping the tradition of cat videos on YouTube strong. Clearly, we've got ourselves a type. But when it came to the important data, another sort of trend emerged. Oat milk was tops when it came to flavor. Behind oat milk, there was a near tie between soy and almond, but for two very different reasons. You see, soy milk was generally well liked by everyone for its rich, thick, creamy texture. Remember the high protein and fat content in soy milk that we talked about in the last category? Well, it's something that you can actually feel on your tongue.
I love drinking like just straight soy milk because it's just a good beverage.
THICC.
It is
Soy.
There's some fat content here.
THICC. Oh, thick.
That I feel like I'm getting
Yeah.
stronger.
You're getting stronger.
I'm
like here.
no, I mean I'm getting it in a more strong way than the almond milk, but it feels like a similar fat content to the whole milk.
You feel it on your throat.
It's thick.
Almond milk, meanwhile, had the highest highs and the lowest lows. In other words, it was the most controversial. In fact, almond milk got the highest number of favorite ratings, but was ultimately weighed down by a high number of least favorite ratings.
I'm going to speak my bias now. This is my mortal enemy. I hate almond milk.
Sorry.
I love almonds, hate almond milk.
Like it or hate it,
Sorry.
the one thing that everyone seemed to agree about was that the almond milk, it tastes a lot like almonds.
Here's my problem with almond milk.
Yes.
Is that there's like bitter at the end of it.
Oh.
It's sweet from the nut. I shouldn't have said it like that.
Yeah, that sounds weird if you say it that way. It's sweet from the nut.
You're gonna regret that.
I'm gonna. It's sweet, but then it has a bitter aftertaste. So you finish drinking it and you're like, "Meh."
Meanwhile, here's one that wasn't controversial, rice milk.
Tastes like water.
That's very watery.
Well, that's very watery and very white.
It was something that I noticed too. Why is rice milk made to be so dang watery? I actually searched high and low for an official answer, but the best I could come up with was that rice milk is low in fat and protein and high in starch. Basically the opposite of something like soy milk. It means that instead of getting creamy when you thicken it, it gets sticky, resulting in something more like porridge than a beverage. Remove too much of that water, and suddenly you don't have yourself a drinkable product. Therefore, they gotta keep it watery. Also ranking low in popularity was pea milk, which maybe gets some bad PR because of its very unfortunate sounding name. Next,
Yep. Pee. You're drinking pee.
some brands of pea milk aren't even willing to call themselves pea milk.
Happy days. I actually think this might be the best milk out of all of them so far. Yeah,
Happy days. Happy days.
this is good.
And if I'm gonna be honest, pea milk should never be a thing.
This sounds gross.
What a terrible name.
Why would you want to drink pee?
I'd change it literally to anything else.
So after 2 rounds, soy had taken the overall lead with cashew, oat, and almond as solid runners-up, which brought us to rounds 3 and 4, frothing and baking. Because if we're truly choosing the one best milk alternative, we wanted to consider all the things that milks do to our food beyond just being milk. How do these alternatives froth in a coffee? How are they gonna function in your next baking project? For our frothing test, we called in our Theorist expert Jason, who actually worked as a barista in a former life. We asked,
May the force be with you. No. May the froth be with you.
Jason to use the same process that he would use for a normal dairy milk for the same amount of time for each of our 7 contestants. By doing that, we were able to get the best understanding of which ones were the easiest to build foam with and which ones behaved most similarly to the good old moo juice. From there, we then measured how much foam we were able to create, as well as how much foam lasted after sitting there for 10 minutes. By doing that, we were able to get a sense of how stable each foam was. And after comparing the numbers, there were 2 foams that bubbled up to the top, oat and soy. Not only did they provide the most overall foam, each measuring in at over an inch, but their foams lasted with minimal loss during that duration of 10 minutes. They were also the 2 easiest to build foam from. Really, the main difference came in the flavors that each provided to their respective drinks. Soy, overall, had a very neutral flavor, not really adding too much to the drink outside of an enriched texture of creaminess. Oat, on the other hand, added a distinctly oaty flavor that lingered on the tongue. Meanwhile, rounding out the bottom 3 in this category were coconut, then cashew, and finally almond. Almond especially was bad, developing only 1/8 of an inch of foam, which then immediately dissolved to 0 after waiting 10 minutes. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll immediately notice that the bottom 3 here are all the nut-based milk alternatives. And if you know the science behind what makes foam foam, this result actually makes a lot of sense. Foam creation depends on 2 milk components, protein and fat. Not just any protein either, casein protein, the same one that cools your tongue when you eat something spicy. Yep, it's also responsible for the foam in your latte. When casein and other proteins are heated, they unfold or denature, wrapping their long proteiny structure around the air bubbles that are being frothed into the milk. The more protein that's present, the more foam you're gonna see. This is also true in the milk alternatives, because those bubbles are being held together by protein. So for milks like cashew and almond that are only sporting a meager 4 grams of protein, that froth ain't going anywhere. There's nothing to make the bubbles in the first place. Even worse is the low-calorie versions of those that have the fat removed. Fat, similar to protein, helps to stabilize the milk's foam bubbles to keep them from collapsing. It's for this exact reason that baristas prefer whole milk for things like foam art. It has the same protein as skim milk, but the added fat is going to keep the bubbles stable longer, providing a
There's a difference between it. The more you know, I guess. Much respect to these individuals who actually study this.
smoother, finer foam consistency. Sometimes coffee shops will even have barista versions of milk alternatives where they've added extra fat and protein to something like almond milk to give it the ability to foam. So if you're ordering almond milk to skip the fat and the calories at Starbucks, think again, because they may have just added it right back in for the sake of that foam swan, or whatever the thing is on the top of your cappuccino. For milk alternatives, a winner like soy milk is going to make a lot of sense here because it's the only milk of the bunch that has comparable protein to cow's milk, which allows it to foam and remain relatively stable. Next, it was on to baking. And here, I'm not going to bore you with too many details because the results all wound up pretty darn similar. We tried a non-dairy cookie recipe as well as a non-dairy cupcake recipe to get a sense of how the milks worked in 2 very different types of baked goods. And overall, the only major difference between milks seemed to be the density of the cupcakes. Some milks were more able to produce a lighter, airy texture, like almond and oat. Others wound up with a more dense cake, like soy and cashew.
I'm just glad that Matt Pat mentioned this and do such research about it. Research that involved dairy milk and non-dairy milk. Interesting.
Being said, it was a minor difference at best, and so it didn't really factor into the overall totals. Finally, we have to talk about price. To determine our overall price winner, we looked at the cheapest options for each milk available from 3 major retailers and averaged them.
But having said that, please do recognize that he lives in the USA. If you're not in the USA, which like I can say for certain, I don't live in the USA, I live in Singapore, these results may differ a lot.
that data, we found that almond milk and soy milk were in a dead heat for the cheapest, each clocking in at about 4 cents per fluid ounce or $2.74 per half gallon. Cashew wasn't that far behind at 5.5 cents, and then oat milk was just under 6. In terms of losers, pea milk was far and away the most expensive, at nearly 10 cents per fluid ounce, a whopping $6 plus for a half gallon. That said, it's not just about how much you're paying for a white milky beverage, it's about the amount of nutrition that you're getting for your dollar. When looked at from that context, soy was the clear winner and cashew milk came in second. Overall, it worked out that the most cost-effective milks were the alt milks that have been on the market the longest, while the newcomers like pea were the most expensive.
But having said that, please do recognize, please take this with a grain of salt. He's using, if I'm not wrong, he's using USD currency in his country. So for his global audience, might not work the same way. Like for example, I live in Singapore, so yeah.
Because the old guys had more opportunity to figure out cost-effective solutions for their production. But perhaps the most interesting takeaway of all the pricing data was that even at their cheapest, no one could actually beat traditional dairy milk. At just over 3 cents per fluid ounce, dairy milk crushed the competition when it came to both price and nutrition per dollar. And with that, it's time to check out our scorecard. Overall, when you look at the complete spectrum of nutrition, taste, price, baking, and foaming, the single best milk alternative is, drum roll please.
Oh my god, using the
soy milk. It absolutely delivers when it comes to bang for your buck, and it comes in a very close second for both nutrition and taste, while the creamy, rich texture of the stuff makes it great for foaming. In a very close second is oat milk. It was the undisputed winner of both the taste test and the foam test, putting it in contention for that #1 spot. But ultimately, it was held back by lackluster nutritional value and a middle-of-the-road price. Across all the tests, almond milk was probably the most controversial. If you're looking for a thin, watery, cheap milk substitute, almond is going to be the one for you. And while that might sound bad, the low calories and general lack of creaminess was something that many people on Team Theorist wanted out of a milk. Plus, while it may not foam all that well, it had stellar numbers when it came to baking.
But having said that, you must remember one of the options or one of the categories is price, and price differs over time. Because supply and demand, you never know. Maybe 1 decade, 2 decades later, when the supply of oats or the supply of soy changes, like the price differs a lot. So let's take this result with a grain of salt, especially when this video came out in the year 2022, and maybe you are watching this video in the year 2032, 2042, 1 decade, 2 decades later. Yeah, the result might not be the same. I'm sorry.
Far, the unexpected dark horse of the race was cashew milk, which isn't even available in a lot of grocery stores, but probably should be, considering that it's absolutely crushing it in terms of nutrition and delivering good bang for your buck despite its mediocre taste reviews. And lastly, we come to our overall loser, coconut milk. It got a dishonorable mention in the nutrition category for being packed with saturated fat, but it's also one of the most expensive. People didn't like the flavor of it, and it didn't foam well. So there you have it.
I will have to disagree with one of the things you mentioned, expensive. Matt, gosh, I'm considering the fact that you live in the USA, but in some parts of the world, coconut milk is significantly cheaper to purchase in comparison to other milks involved. So yeah, I'm sorry, Matt, you are wrong.
We have it, Theorists, the definitive guide to the best milk alternatives on the market. The next time Sky, your barista at Starbucks, asks
Hi Sky
for your milk preference, you can answer with confidence knowing that you indeed have the correct answer because you're a theorist. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. And thanks again to Geico for sponsoring today's episode.
Thank you so
Choosing a
much.
cheaper milk option isn't the only way to keep more money in your wallet this summertime. Saving money with Geico is now easier than ever. Emphasis on both easy and on saving money. Because when it comes to things like insurance, I suspect we all really want things to be as easy as possible. True story, I recently went through the ordeal of having to say goodbye to a 14-year-old car and then buying a replacement. Process of trading in an old car and trying to buy a new one, it's a bit of a hassle, but you know.
Oh my god, say goodbye. I'm way too good at goodbyes.
What wasn't a hassle? Buying insurance for that new car. I was able to get a quote from Geico and add a brand new policy right through their mobile app. And not only did Geico make it easy to insure that new car, but it made it easy to add that new policy to our existing policy for the family vehicle, saving me even more money on both. Geico is fast, easy, and hassle-free, and most importantly, it saved me money. If you'd like to find out just how easy it can be for you to start saving money on your insurance with Geico, head on over to the link down in the video description below. Thanks for watching, friends, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you find this video very interesting, educational, and just creative to watch. I love it that he did all the research, all the descriptions, although there's some parts which is wrong. And yeah, but let's take things into consideration from his point of view. So thank you so much. Help stand in his shoes and maybe he could say in our shoes as well. So either ways, let's be fair, let's be understanding, and let's be polite and kind to each other. Thank you so much. Well, if you do like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel and comment down below if you have any shares down below. Don't forget to follow my channel. I hope to see you all in my next live stream. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. And I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye bye. Thank you. Is it not showing up? Ta-da! Now it's there. Oh my god, my outro is horrible! It's horrible! Sorry.